The Menendez brothers are going home, folks. They're going home. We could talk about how and why, whether it's justice or injustice, but the writing is on the wall. The DA is paving the way. The DA's got the key and is like unlocking the jail and the prison door right now. So we're going to talk about it. This is the Tangent Podcast. I'm Vinny Politan. That is Al Wunsch III, amazing attorney, historian, stand-up comedian, child actor. And down here is Jonesy. He is the radio legend. I'm the lead anchor for Court TV. And yes, This is the Tangent Podcast.
All right.
Here we go.
It's Vinny and the Tangent, True Crime Podcast. Vinny has the blue eyes, Al cracks the jokes.
Look at that.
Jonesy stays behind his shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinny and the Tangent, True Crime Podcast.
It didn't fit.
Load up all your comments, hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinny, Al, and Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime. They're telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinny and the Tangent, True Crime Podcast.
Young Jonesy. I love that photo. Young
Jonesy. Yeah, I like the photo of you body slamming Al in the bathroom or whatever it is.
No, that is David Otunga, professional wrestler, body slamming me.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I just assumed it was you guys.
No, it was not. So we're talking about the Menendez brothers going home. I have mixed emotions about this, but I want to begin with Jonesy because of the three of us, Jonesy was at Court TV before any of us. Before I arrived, before Al was on our radio show and television show, Jonesy was there. What are your thoughts, Jonesy, that right now we are sitting here and like it's not official. We'll talk about the process, but what do you think about the prospect of the Menendez brothers going home?
Well, first of all, let me say I heard some network guys saying that it's the TV program that it's the trial that invented a reality program with Court TV. That's not true. We had some big ones before that with the LA riots and stuff like that. But as far as the Menendez brothers going home, man, they are young, right? Because they were so young when they committed it. I think the oldest one is 54 now.
Yeah, barely middle age.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's the better news story. What's a better news story from my perspective as a news junkie, as a fan of it all? The Menendez brothers walking is a better news story than them going back.
But did you think it was ever possible, right?
No, I never did. But nor did I ever see the future and the way trials like that are handled these days. If they were on trial these days with the SA charges, and the younger one it's Lyle.
Yes, Lyle's Lyle's the older
Lyle's
one.
the older one.
Eric was very, very believable on the stand. He was crying real tears, and he was very believable with that whole hands or knees. I mean, use your imagination, hands or knees, right? That was the choice he was given by Dad. With what's all happened in recent years, it still surprises me that they can go back and change history. But if that trial took place today, I think they walk.
But it didn't take place today,
right?
Al,
I agree.
I'd like
to follow up and say I agree with you on that. Like when marijuana became legal, they started dismissing charges on people from the past who were charged with marijuana. Well, that was the law in this country back then, and I don't see how things changing today changes history. But it like I said, better news story. Sorry, Al.
Al, here's the thing, Al. They were convicted and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
Right.
Like that was the sentence. And they were facing a potential D-pen, right? Because it was double red rum with special circumstance of lying in wait. This was an ambush, right? This was not self-defense, right? So they're lying in wait. They planned and plotted it. It's a double red rum. They were facing a potential D-pen and were given the benefit of life without the possibility of parole. And every defense attorney in every D-pen case always argues to the jury, don't give them the easy way out. Give them life. Make them think about what they did every day. And they'll never get out. They'll never see the light of day. But like I always say, life without parole doesn't really mean life without parole all the time. And now we're taking someone who's sentenced to life without parole and saying they should get parole. So what's the point of having life without parole if it doesn't mean life without parole? Right?
That there is some quandary on this. And I take a look at Leslie Van Houten, okay, who was sentenced D-pen, all right, by some gratuitous luck.
She's one of the Manson girls.
That's correct, one of the Manson ladies, and that she was, by luck, they got rid of the D-pen in California, and then she ended up having a life sentence. She was released last year, or actually earlier this year. Okay, so she was able to get out. Probably one of the most heinous red rum cases in the history of at least California, if not the United States, and she got out. So in and of itself, that is a little hypocritical to be sentenced to D-pen and be able to get out.
Right. But that's the quirk in the law, right? That was the quirk, that there was no life without parole. And the whole point of life without parole was an alternative that's supposed to be like the ultimate punishment that isn't the ultimate punishment. But somehow, some way, now we're paving the way for parole. And we'll debate whether or not they should or shouldn't, et cetera. I'm just looking at the legal aspect of it. Like, what's the point of life without parole if we're gonna give parole to people who get life without parole?
All right. Well, I want to get back to that, but I want to go over something you said earlier about, but it didn't happen today. I actually know some things that did happen on this day in history.
The Civil War to civil rights and all the revolution fights. World War I and World War II. I'll always knows who is who. It's this day in history. This day in history. History. Now let's listen to his story.
All right, Al, what's your story?
All right. Well, we're going to start in a year that Vinny remembers well, 1415.
1415.
1415.
No cameras in the courtroom yet.
The Battle of Agincourt. Okay. And the reason why I bring that up, it's a famous battle during the 100 Years' War where the English defeated the French handily. And it is the basis of a play called Henry V by Shakespeare, of which we get these great lines of cry God for Harry, England, and St. George. And then the most famous line, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he that sheds his blood with me today is my brother. The band of brothers has become a great term that we see throughout all these different things. It was a tremendous miniseries by Stephen Ambrose that was on HBO with regards to what happened during World War II and the Normandy invasion going forward with the men of the 82nd Airborne. And so I wanted to just bring that out. This is where we get Band of Brothers, Henry V. But also on this day in 1964, the Rolling Stones had their first appearance on Ed Sullivan.
Oh, that's huge.
They played two songs, Around and Around, and Time Is on My Side. Around and Around is a Chuck Berry song that they redid, and then they did Time on My Side. The
That's
audience
60
was going
years ago.
Yeah, that's 1964. So it was on that. But from the true crime history standpoint, October 25th, 2006, Danny Rowland is executed. Danny Rowland, he gets to D-Pen. Okay, he was the Gainesville Ripper.
Oh, yes,
Oh.
yes. Okay, now it's okay.
The Gainesville Ripper was an individual who red rummed 5 students, 4 from the University of Florida, 1 from Santa Fe College in August of 1990. He had not only red rummed, but also would mutilate and then place the victims' bodies in suggestive S
Ooh,
poses.
right. Yeah.
Okay. His horrors that he did the 5 murders and 5 red rums in Florida, and then 3 red rums in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Al, is he the one that strategically placed the body parts, like the head, to be on a shelf facing the door when the authorities came in?
He had one situation where the head was facing the torso that was propped up on a bed.
Wow.
Okay, so he was, a horrendous
Was he
individual.
inspired by Bundy? Because that's where Bundy ended up getting caught, right down in Florida.
They said he basically took it to another level from that. Okay, because of the stuff that he did, including essay after the corpses, after the women were dead, and things along those lines. His victims were all students, mostly freshman students at University of Florida. His last words before he depenned was a gospel song that he sang for 2 minutes in front of all the people that were there to watch. It was a standing room only crowd for it. And I know Vinny always likes this. His last meal was lobster tail, drawn butter, butterfly shrimp, baked potato, strawberry cheesecake, and sweet tea.
Mm.
So he was in Florida. He was dependent in Florida. And Florida, interestingly,
was it Maine lobster or was it the Caribbean lobster? Big difference.
Well, lobster tail has to probably be Caribbean lobster.
Mm.
Okay. And there's also a situation that it's a $40 limit for your last meal.
Oh,
Is it really?
if I'm getting lobster and shrimp and it's under 40, I don't want it.
Right.
That could be a little dangerous.
That's why it's Caribbean. You can tell
Oh,
it's the
chewy.
Caribbean. They're not bringing it in from Maine.
Right. He hasn't finished his last meal yet. He's still chewing the lobster.
now,
Hey, let me ask you this, Al. Is that song, was it recorded? And is it public domain? I could release it as a 45 and make a fortune.
Yeah, no, it wasn't public. It was not recorded to my knowledge. It mostly annoyed everybody that was sitting there listening to him wailing for 2 minutes about, going to the big who's gal in the sky. And the Danny Rowland's escapades were the basis for the movie called Scream.
Oh, interesting. By
Although
the way,
they moved
Red
it to
Rover,
high
not a fan of the Caribbean lobster. And by the way, I was just down in Aruba, which is why we weren't on last week, and a lot of Caribbean lobster on the menus there. I didn't order any of that. I stayed away from that. But I don't know. I always go Maine lobster. I see Caribbean lobster. I just feel like lobster needs to be in cold water. Why do I think that? I don't know.
Well, because the best ones come from the cold water. They, off the coast of Long Island or in Maine, they are absolutely the best. The cold water is just what makes the meat sweeter and makes it, a higher delicacy.
Yeah, and that's where Patricia Ann Marie Slammer is. Patricia Ann Marie Slammer. I'm in Mass. Lobster aplenty. Lobster aplenty.
There you go. I've never had lobster. I've had lobster brisk, what? Not brisk.
What?
Not brisk. What do you call the soup?
Bisque.
Lobster bisque.
Brisk. I was watching Seinfeld the other.
Could you imagine? Wait, Al. Could you imagine a lobster conducting a bris?
Oh,
Oh,
Baruch
Oh.
Haba Netanyahu, Kishmer took us around.
hey, that would be perfect if you could train them because they could hang on to it and they could slip at the same time. But
It
I
sounds like a
find
very shellfish type of thing to happen, my friend.
By the way, the lobster wouldn't be kosher either. That'd be a real
No,
problem.
that'd be the real problem on it. It'd absolutely not be kosher.
yeah, I find them to be insects of the sea, and I just can't. I
So you
can't
don't
do it.
want to eat them. That's by
No.
choice.
Yeah, yeah, I think it
There's
probably
nothing
tastes
better.
good, but it's
Nothing
You
by
ever
better.
had a lobster roll?
Oh,
probably not, but I've had the soup, like I say, the bisque.
Oh,
And
we're-
I'm
next
know
really-
what
time-
you're missing. You don't
Next
know what you're
time we're all together somewhere, we're getting Jonesy some lobster.
Amen.
I don't care where we
creatures-
are.
creatures of the sea, and you have to tear them apart and stuff like that. And I know they're like mindless little creatures, but it's so sad to see their little claws taped up in the tank.
Survival of the fittest.
Amen.
It is what it is. If they were bigger than us, they'd be eating us. Come on.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! If they were bigger
they
than
would.
us, they'd be frightening.
Oh, they would. They would. So let's get back to where's our story here?
Oh, well,
So-
by the way, I just wanted to mention to you though, I told you the $40 for Florida is the amount that you can, the maximum you can spend for your last meal. Oklahoma is only $25.
Wow.
So you wouldn't have gotten the butterfly shrimp and probably not the baked potato or the cheesecake. You might have been able to get the Caribbean lobster tail.
Can you use a coupon?
No, you can't do that. And you need special permission to be able to eat with someone. Generally, you eat it alone, but you can ask to have your meal with another person who is either a prisoner or the warden.
Can you call
Right.
one of those services that deliver food?
The Uber does not go to the jail.
Yeah. Hey, do you
Uber
know? You know, there's a strip club out in the West. I'm on a tangent. Out in the Midwest, that during COVID started a Fuber or Boober. It was called Boober, and you would order food, and they would send the food over. And they would have a stripper. They would have a dancer come over and bring you the food. That's how they stayed in business.
Yeah,
Smart.
That
Yeah.
sounds sanitary.
Smart. Okay, so there was the big press conference yesterday. George Gascon, the LADA, speaking. So I want to listen to some parts of that just to get a little more understanding of the process that's going to play out. I believe it's a done deal. I don't think anything is going to stop
Sounds it
the
to me.
momentum of where we are right now.
I don't think it's a done deal, and I'll tell you
No.
why. Okay, because this guy has the DA has put himself in a position where he's coming out and doing this. The judge still has the opportunity to put the kibosh on it,
Right.
and it could conceivably happen. Okay, I'm not sure. There is, if I'm not mistaken, he's looking to change the sentence to 50 years.
Well,
rather
what he
than-
wants to do is to take away the special circumstance.
Right.
So it goes from red rum with special circumstance to plain red rum. Plain red rum is 25 to life
Right.
per count, 2 counts. So now it's 50 to life. But because of a new law that was passed in 2013 and their age at the time of the red rums, they become eligible for parole immediately.
Well, they
You
were
see,
guilty. They were guilty of the special circumstance, right? Lying
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
wait.
They
Yeah,
they
they're
were
lying in
found
wait. They were.
But-
So he's really changing the verdict and then applying a law that was passed how many years? 20 years after this to get them eligible for parole as youthful offenders. So it's a little bit of legal gymnastics to get there. But you're going to be in court, and I don't know if there's going to be anyone in there arguing against it because the DA is arguing for it. The defense, obviously, oh yeah, we agree, Your Honor. This is a smart prosecutor. He mentioned, let's listen to just a little bit of the press conference, because something he says in the beginning is interesting, and I'm wondering how this will actually manifest itself inside the courtroom. I think it's an important part of this. So let me just find here we go.
By telling you that this is a case where we've had many people in this office spend a great deal of time reviewing the case. I can tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office that strongly believe that the Menendez brothers should stay in prison the rest of their life, and they do not believe that they were molested. And there are people in the office that strongly believe that they should be released immediately and that they were in fact molested. I have to tell you that after a very careful review of all the arguments that were made for people on both sides of this equation, I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate, and I am going to recommend that to a court tomorrow.
All right. So he described the process, and it was like an internal debate because there's a whole bunch of assistant DAs who are under George Gascon who don't like their leader. George Gascon is a criminal defense attorney pretending to be a prosecutor. He spends more time figuring out how to let people go than to lock people up. That is his platform. That's what he ran on. That's what he's done. He did it in San Francisco. He did it in LA. Right now, as we speak, he is up for re-election, but in the latest polling from September is behind by at least 24 points to an independent who is just saying, let's go back to prosecuting criminals as a DA rather than spending our time figuring out how to let people go. During the course of this press conference, he said, this is not the first resentencing of a murderer. He said, a red rummer. Sorry, I did it myself. He's done 28 of these. And then he said, we've had 300 people resentenced and only 4 of them have reoffended. And he was bragging about that number. Is that something you would brag about, Al? That 4 of the people whose sentences you basically sort of commuted as a prosecutor reoffended. What do you say to those victims?
Yeah, that is a sort of a bitter pill, but it demonstrates that the recidivism rate is not great. I mean, 4 out of that number is not demonstrative of anything other than the fact that maybe it makes sense, but it's it's still a tragedy that there were 4 that got out and then did something again. I don't know what those 4 did. I mean, they could have robbed a bank or something along those lines, which might be a little bit different. But if they red rum, then I think if they did red rum, that would have been already brought out by anyone and everyone. Yeah, especially his, the person he's running against would be bringing that up. So I'm not sure they.
Al, what is recidivism?
That means you do it again.
Oh, like the Kinks song or the Beach Boys song, "Do It Again."
Yes, that's right. But it's a situation that 4 out of that number, if they were not violent things, I don't necessarily think that that's too terrible. And if they were violent, I'm sure we would have been hearing about it way before now. So, I'll go from there. But the thing about this that I think a judge is going to have a problem with is that now you're going to really open up the floodgates and everyone is going to be asking for this review and to go forward on it and everything along those lines. And everything that they bring up, jail is supposed to, get you be rehabilitated, make you, to give you the opportunity to be a productive member of society. These boys they're men now, but they've gone in there and even looking at the fact that they were never getting out, they did tremendous things in the prison. They work with hospice prisoners. They have an AA program. They've been doing all these different things to help better inmates that are in the prison. And that was the same thing with Leslie Van Houten. That's exactly what they were arguing with her.
Why do you need an AA meeting in prison when you can't get alcohol?
Well, that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's a good
point, Jonesy.
But AA is a way of life. And it is it's an affirmation. It is an opportunity to try to better yourself. And if you're getting out, let's say you're doing a 5-year sentence, chances are you'll be out in 13 months. Okay. And maybe you need to have this kind of a program so that you don't fall back into the same type of thing. I'm sure the program Yeah, the program in and of itself is actually a very good therapy program. So
Sure, you make amends. You
right,
know, you do the
right.
whole thing. You turn your life around, which is what we want. If you're going to be
Apologize.
returned, if you're going to be returned to society, we want you to be productive and able to add to society. So, what's interesting though is the people who objected, and we may get to this part in the press conference, but it seemed like Gascon's indicated that some of them might be in court, that some of his assistant DAs who are objecting to this might show up, and I don't know how they would have
Wow.
standing. Like if if it ends up being a resentencing, if the judge does the resentencing, I guess a judge could reject it and say no, there's not going to be a resentencing here, right? That could happen, or
That's
the judge
good.
could say yes, there is a resentencing, and then there's a debate about what the resentencing is. Well, you're looking at this is Jose, the alleged monster, and Kitty, his wife, the mother of the Menendez brothers. Her brother is not on board with this.
Right.
Now, there's other members of the family that are on board, cousins and maybe an aunt or two, that are on board with the Menendez boys. And I call them the boys. They're men, I know, but the Menendez boys coming back home, right? But at least one uncle is not on board with this. And,
Well,
and he'll have a voice, I would think, at the resentencing if he so chooses.
Kitty's brother is 90 years old, and he's
Oh,
hired
boy.
a lawyer.
He's
So
hired a lawyer.
Hired a lawyer to attack this, and would probably be granted the opportunity to speak, pursuant to the Victims' Bill of Rights, and as a friend of the court, come in and say, listen, this is not fair, this is not right, and bring up legal precedent as to why this should not be done.
I can
Right.
see the family doing that, but as far as the people who work in the DA's office, that doesn't seem right to me. I mean, the DA's office should take one stance, and that should be
Right.
it.
Well, here's the question. Like, there was a hearing set for the end of November. It was something that was filed like a year and a half ago by the Menendez brothers, which is a writ of habeas corpus. So they have a date for that. And Gascon has sort of preempted that date with this maneuvering. And a lot of people in LA are questioning the motivation behind it. Like, you've had this case in front of you with the alleged new evidence being this letter written to one of the cousins to corroborate the essay, and a member of Menudo coming forward and saying they were a victim of essay by Jose Menendez as well. Okay, so that's the new evidence. That's the basis for this writ, this habeas that was filed. The habeas hasn't been heard yet. You could just wait for that. But he jumped up now, just before the election.
Right.
Do you find that problematic? See, here's my problem. I don't like the mixture of politics and law. Okay. It inevitably happens because in jurisdictions like Los Angeles, prosecutors are elected by the people. Okay, that's the process that the state chose. That's fine. But is he motivated by politics, or is he motivated by justice?
He's obviously motivated by politics. I mean, he's doing something that is going to curry favor with an audience that is the TikTok audience and people along those lines that were not even born when this case happened. Okay, so he's going out there and he's trying to make some sort of a pitch to the younger crowd that will now support him for doing something that they seem to be overwhelmingly in support of. And it's clearly a political move. It had to be done now. It would have made no sense.
Should a judge acknowledge that? Should a judge deal with that? Like, if you're the judge in this and you see that you've got a DA bringing all this, and this DA will likely lose re-election in November, and I don't know when the new DA gets sworn in, but should this be put off until there's a new DA, or should it be happening here at the end, much like governors and presidents do at the end of their term when they start commuting sentences?
It's going to be an interesting question as whether or not. See,
what is justice? Is this proper use of justice? Is this proper use of prosecutorial power?
He's done a smart thing, though. Okay, one, throwing it out at this point in time, so maybe he can curry some favor with the younger voters and maybe get up in the polls. But two, he's also not making the decision.
Right,
Okay,
the judge makes a
the
decision.
judge makes the decision. So I mean, it's really, it's
But
like
he's
giving,
bringing
yeah,
the,
it's like
he's
giving
bringing
ice
the motion in front of the judge. If he waited for the habeas at the end of November, then it's not his motion. This is now his motion that he's filing.
kills two birds with one stone. Okay,
I have a legal.
mean,
I have a legal question for you guys. When I read that it was a habeas corpus, I couldn't help but think of the Marx Brothers. You know, they at one point cite habeas corpus. I think it was Groucho. And the thing is, I don't know what that means. And I looked it up, and it was kind of like confusing. It had something to do with guardianship and all that. Exactly what is a habeas corpus, and how does it apply to the Menendez?
it's just deliver the body. That's what it means in Latin. So
Mm.
in other words, you get an opportunity to come into court again, okay, despite the fact that you've been tried, appealed, all that has been done, okay. Now you're coming out, you're asking that the court will take this case and take a look at something else that has happened, or a new evidence that has come through, or anything along those lines that would enable them to be able to, look at, okay, re-examine what happened in the case.
And generally, though, you need something new. Like there has to be a reason to
Yes.
bring it. It's not like an extra appeal. It's like, oh, we've got something new that needs to be examined here.
Well, they do have the letter.
It would be they have this letter. Now, the letter, not everyone believes this letter. Like the letter was written allegedly from Eric to his cousin Andy. Cousin Andy testified at the first trial. And Eric testified in the first trial, and nowhere in the first trial is there any mention of this letter. Cousin Andy passes away. Cousin Andy's mother allegedly finds the letter.
Yeah,
and then does nothing with it for years, and then finally it appears. Now, there's also been allegations against Lyle Menendez of him being on record trying to get some evidence fabricated in this case. So you have that as well. So not everyone is trusting or believing or taking at face value this letter that would provide the vehicle for this habeas. George Gascon believes in it. He believes in the letter. He believes in Roy Rosello, who was the 13-year-old member of Menudo, who has gone on record saying that he was essayed by Jose Menendez. Okay, Jonesy, quick quiz. Which one is Lyle?
Lyle would be the smiling one.
Without the hair.
Right.
the bald.
Do you agree, Al?
That is Lyle. Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't know which one's Lyle. See,
Well, I was confused at the top of the show and had to ask, and I covered the cases from gavel to gavel. Refresh my memory. Were they both on television, or did they take the second one off?
The second trial was not on television.
no, there's no
Cameron-
TV. So we don't know what happened. And that's a real problem now, because a lot of the allegations of the injustice are what happened in the second trial. And, I didn't see it. I can't opine on it. And
Well,
they
we
were
have
really
transcript.
limited. They were not permitted to use any of the essay evidence, which personally, that's the biggest problem I have with all of this, is that was not permitted in the second trial, which is the same as the first trial with the same judge. Like, to me, that I got a sense of railroading out of that. And I don't feel good about that. And I don't think that was fair. What I think the fairest of all to do would be do it again. Do the trial.
Spoken like a court TV anchor.
Jonesy, you're reading my mind. But, but I think in light of everything, like, was that second trial fair? I can't tell you because I didn't see it, because the judge banned cameras, and the judge apparently banned a big part of the defense's evidence in that case. And I have a bad taste in my mouth about that. But I also have a bad taste with the fact that Kitty was taken out.
Yes.
Like Jose the Animal, I get Jose the Animal, okay, based upon the allegations, okay. All right, I get it. That might be something less than lying in wait. red rum. That might be something closer to manslaughter based on PTSD and everything else that goes into a child who is essayed to that extent. Okay, I get that. But why
So
Kitty?
here's the thing from back in the day, if I may interrupt. I don't know if this was so much the jury or the court, but the consensus with people that you would speak to back then was mom was crawling away, shot, and
They reloaded.
and it's mom, and you're accusing him. But the thing is, history has kind of shown that often when this thing happens in a family, this SA thing, there is knowledge, and maybe even looking the other way or even permission by the spouse. Now, of course,
But there's no threat from the spouse.
Except though that it would have destroyed their alibi. It would have destroyed their argument that this was a mob hit. Okay,
Right.
that Jose was dealing with some shadowy figures, and we know in the record industry, especially back in that time, there was a lot of organized crime involvement in
Are you disparaging Italian Americans right now, Al?
No, not at all. It could have been. Just say I'm disparaging the music business because back then, and even before that, there was a influence of organized crime in.
And you had a payola.
Don't worry, Vinny. Morris Levy was not Italian.
That's right. That's right.
That's
Morris
right.
was not. He ran the whole business.
So like the thing though that see. If they had done this and then they cried out that we did it and come forward and then it's because we were essayed and this, that, the other thing, I think I'd have a different feeling on the case. The fact that they tried to hide it is a real problem for me. The fact that they took the mother out is a real problem to me, because that demonstrates now. Let's remember that they did make an allegation that the mother was also guilty of SA.
Yeah, but
They did say that the mother would examine them and that she was preoccupied with STDs and things and AIDS and things along those lines, and was very, very cautious and wanted to make sure that their genitalia did not have any type of lesions or this, that, the other thing on it. Especially when she had some sort of an inkling that the one brother may not, been straight. So you have that both of them were guilty in the minds of these two individuals, guilty of SA.
Now the other problem you have here, and what you're looking at right now on the screen, this is a zoom in of Mark Jackson, who played for the New York Knicks, his trading card.
Yeah.
And in the action picture of Mark Jackson as in trading card, there's Eric and Lyle sitting like front row at Madison Square Garden. And this is in the heyday of New York Knicks basketball. They're back in it now, but this is when they were good with Patrick Ewing, and it was the hottest ticket in town.
Yeah, it must have cost
Menendez
like
boys are sitting front row
back then.
What's that?
Must have cost like $72 back then.
No. Well, I don't know what it cost, but it's front row.
Those seats were $3,500 each.
Even back then.
Yeah.
And that was if you could get them for $3,500. Okay, that was the the regular price for it. My brother-in-law is a basketball announcer. Used to be the announcer for the Knicks, Mike Breen. And
wait a minute, you're related to Mike Breen now.
Yes, I am. He's my brother-in-law.
And you're not getting me tickets.
For what? You're in friggin' Atlanta. You come up here, we get tickets. Okay.
Now I find out Mike Breen's your brother-in-law.
Yeah. I never hid that. I like Mike a lot. He's a great guy.
No, he's a legend. Okay, by the way, look who's watching today. Adam Drives Helen. But apparently, my Friday morning fellas, no more Helen. I have an Alice, the RV now.
Oh,
Adam's driving Alice.
If anyone has seen Helen, please report to the police immediately. Helen is missing.
Now, let me clarify. Helen is a truck, right?
Yes, yes. You know,
And a
Adam.
song, and also a song by Paul McCartney, Helen Wheels.
Yes.
So, by the way, folks, we are live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and X. If you're on YouTube, like it, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, follow and share. If you're on X, re-X and follow. And if you're on Twitch, you know what you need to do. Yesterday, I was streaming, guys. I had my biggest day ever on Twitch. I had like 15 views on Twitch.
Nice.
1-5, double digits on Twitch. We're
Wow.
starting to steamroll there. We're
Bedrock,
starting to
Twitch,
steamroll. Yeah,
Twitch.
yeah. It's getting big. It's getting big, folks. It's getting very, very big.
That's what she said.
happy. It's time to get funky. It's time for us to smile. Because here comes Max Spunky.
Oh yeah, McSpunky on the job today. Let him out so we don't have to hear about them anymore.
That
Who's
ain't gonna
in on
happen.
that?
They will be on everything. They will be on every talk show. They will end up opening up some sort of a foundation that is a charitable organization in quotation marks, and they will be speaking at colleges, at high schools, at
Let me
women's
ask you this
clubs.
though. Okay, here and I'm being 100% serious now. I'm not being facetious. I'm not being snarky. I want a prediction on this because both of these men have now been married for more than 20 years. Lyle's on his second wife. Eric is still on his first, Tammy. When they get out, do those marriages survive? Number one, let me look at it two ways. These women chose to marry men that would never be free. Now they've got to deal with them, right? If they come out from the woman's perspective. From the male perspective, you're locked up with men for 35 years. Now you come out into the public and you are a celebrity.
That's a very good question.
Lyle definitely doesn't last. I mean, he's going to slap that toupee back on and hit the scene.
I don't think the toupee. I don't think his toupee is going back on. I think he's.
You know what's interesting for Lyle on that note, he is now being released in a society that embraces hairless men.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
Yep.
cool to be bald. Like I think when he was first going bald as a young man, it wasn't necessarily embraced. And then all of a sudden, Michael Jordan sort of emerged and made bald cool. Bald has who else?
Kojak.
Kojak sort of, but not. It still wasn't in vogue. Michael Jordan pushed it over the top. Now people who have hair shave their heads. You have The Rock. You have bald is in. So Lyle is out now to be bald at the best time to be a bald man ever.
That's a good point. And whether or not the marriages are going to stay together.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be very, very difficult for it to stay together. Okay. Because if you're used to having someone that you visit on, every other weekend, and now all of a sudden they're, in the bathroom and they're in the kitchen and they're, looking for their chicken pot pie, I think things are going to be a little bit different. And getting, it's hard to take somebody out. And, you've been in a prison for that many years. It's a very difficult thing to break. And I think it's going to be very, very, very tough on the outside for the marriage.
For the marriages?
I think it's going to be very good for them from a profit standpoint. They're going to really do very well.
I'll have a podcast, by the way.
Well, that's a question I was going to bring up with the, in New York, we had the Son of Sam laws, and, many places have followed suit. You can't profit from a crime that you committed. How do these guys go back to the lavish lifestyle? Is there a way around that?
I think very quickly. Quickly. I absolutely think
money
there's
they
gonna be
get
so many opportunities for them.
They're going to be getting
working for broadcast or whatever, or writing books would be their money.
Well, you take a look at the Central Park, 5. I mean, each one of them received they wouldn't receive a
But they
settlement.
were innocent.
Right, they were innocent. But what I'm saying is that
You comparing apples and oranges here.
no, what I'm saying though is that they came out and then they ended up getting very, very good jobs. They've been able to parlay that and go forward as quasi celebrities.
Yeah.
These guys
aren't
are
getting
celebrities.
jobs. They're not getting
These
jobs.
guys-
They're gonna play off of their brand.
These guys are celebrities. They're coming out as celebrities.
Yeah.
It's a big difference on that.
Jonesy, do the marriages survive?
Lyle's definitely doesn't because he's in the clubs, and Eric doesn't for other reasons that I won't get into.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, Gen X telling everyone why you should follow us on Twitch or follow me on Twitch, because you get the fastest notifications when we go live. So
Nice.
even if you don't want to watch it on Twitch, follow on Twitch, you'll get the notification, because as we know, YouTube, Facebook, a little mezzamets with the notifications sometimes when we go live. By the way, Gen X, Frankie Figs, and Jennifer Sube are the Mod Squad.
Yes.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The Mod Squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The Mod Squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean. So let's give it up and say hello to the three amazing ladies running the show. Gen X, let's make some noise. Frankie Figs, let's clap our hands. And Jennifer Sube, let's raise the roof. Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in
Yes,
this
ladies
chat.
and gentlemen, the Mod Squad on the job every day. We thank them for their hard work and reminding us to keep it clean here on the program, which is
Who
something.
did that song? Basil for Mean? I mean, it sounds like
All right, which one is this, Eric or Lyle?
That's Eric.
Sorry.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah.
Is
He's got the longer face.
Is that Eric?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
don't think so.
No,
Which one?
He's got a
the
rounded
longer face,
chin.
yeah.
He's got a longer face. He's got that triangle face.
So which of these two is Lyle? Left or right?
Left.
Left.
So
My
now
left.
is that fake? Is that
You
fake
can tell-
hair
you
right
can
there?
tell by that Mo haircut he's got
Yes.
with regards to his tooth.
So that's a toupee.
Yes, he wore a toupee during the trial because when they took the prison picture, everybody was like shocked.
Hiya,
I
Mo.
don't know. I'm not. I don't know if I'm with you guys on who's who here.
Yeah, that is definitely him. And that's
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not even close.
Let me see. So Eric there. Okay. Now I'm seeing it. I mean, they look. There's times they look alike.
Eric has changed more because he was like thin and frail and still seemed to hang on to that boyish thing before you
Right.
before
Well,
you fill out a little bit.
he wasn't frail. I mean, he was in great shape. I mean, he was a
True, he
top
was a tennis player.
tennis player.
Absolutely.
I mean, who
You're
worked
right.
out every day. He was six pack the whole 9 yards. He certainly wasn't
Yeah.
frail.
Right, but he was very, very thin. So if you didn't know that, you kind of like could have that impression. Plus, considering his testimony, of being dominated by others.
Laura Wagner, divorce imminent. Here's my prediction. Okay, and again, I'm not being snarky. I'm not trying to be funny. This is my true analysis of it. What do we know about the Menendez boys? Like, what was a big part of their youth, but besides the essay?
Tennis.
Tennis, right? Trained tennis players. How old are they now?
50s.
They can go on. They can go on
50s.
the senior circuit. Yeah.
No. They'll
Pickleball.
be on the pickleball courts. They're going to be playing pickleball.
They could make pickleball like McEnroe and Connors and Borg made tennis. They could make pickleball.
They'll be the bad boys of pickleball. Listen, they were seriously good tennis players.
Very good.
Okay,
Right.
if they play pickleball seriously for 6 months, and doubles is what pickleball is all about. These guys, this is where I think they're going to play off their brand. It's going to be pickleball. They're going to sell their story to the highest bidder, whether it's Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, HBO. They're going to make millions from that right off the bat, just selling the rights to tell their story firsthand. Okay, that's where they'll make their money. Then they liked playing tennis. They were competitive. I mean, after the Red Rums, I think it was Eric was over in Israel playing professionally. So they've got talent. Pickleball is a quick learn. It's a growing thing. I mean, who is not going to show up to watch them play a pickleball match?
I'd show up to see them tag team in pro wrestling on WWE. But would they be good guys or bad guys? I say bad guys.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I think it's for real. Anna does not think the marriages will survive.
No.
Dr. JW, lots of hoochie mamas will come out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah.
I agree there. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to play a little. This is a little risky because I'm playing something that I found on the internet. But this was, and there's, I'll play just a small portion of it because it's that risky. But this is, so Tammy, I interviewed her at one point, and I think it was on Court TV Morning Radio. Jonesy, is it true? Was it during Court TV Morning Radio, or did I do it on the TV show where I interviewed
Tammy?
Tammy Menendez, I guess, one of the Menendez brothers.
Oh, right.
I honestly, I don't recollect. It was about 30 years.
Okay. Well,
you would have interviewed her afterwards because yes. Even was Court TV Radio. Now that my memory is refreshed.
Yeah, I think it was Court TV Radio because I remember the story with Tammy was she was married, had a child, writes the letter, visits, falls in love, leaves her husband, and I think they were living in the Midwest somewhere, picks up her child, moves him out to California to a town somewhere close to the penitentiary where Eric was living. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's remarkable. I mean, it just blows my mind. You know, I just wrote a letter. I mean, what was the purpose of writing the letter? I mean, it's just because you had nothing better to do. I wanted to become a pen pal with this guy.
Doesn't this happen all the time with like celebrity criminals and serial red rum?
Red rummers?
Kind of yeah. Red rum.
Sherry says bald is sexy nowadays.
Yeah.
Who loves you, baby?
No, I'm sorry, Vinny, myself, and Jonesy all have our hair. So
Yeah.
I guess we're not sexy.
I could never make more than 2 licks on a Tootsie Roll Pop before I bid in, man. Which is why I don't need them today.
You know, I am so torn, and for me, the way to do this is to have some level of a redo because I'm not on board with the second trial. I'm not on board with the way that went down. But I'm also not on board with just letting him out because to me, it's the kiddie issue.
Well,
and it's also this steamrolling. I'm like, what is different? Like, what has changed that, and I'm worried about the slippery. I'm always worried about the bigger picture, which is the slipperier slope. Like, and what Gascon said, he was asked, why now? And you know why? What his answer was?
Why not?
Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix and the public reaction to Netflix and all the calls we're getting, we can't handle all the people who are contacting our audience. So I'm like, you don't have enough operators standing by. And that's why a red rummer gets released. Like,
couldn't he have taken the higher road and said something like public opinion, rather than citing Netflix?
Well, you know what's interesting though is that no one has written a song about them yet. Isn't that the way we always get people that are out of prison with regards to songs? You take a look at
That's Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's Hurricane.
Yep, yep. With Ruben
Did he get out?
Hurricane. Yeah, he was released. He's dead now, but he was
Yes,
released.
Ruben Hurricane. He
Carter.
did get released, but soon after he was released, he was accused of some sort of like violence or another, and I believe it was temporarily rescinded, or he was accused. But it didn't take long for him to get in a little trouble, actually.
Well,
But
but
they,
he
some people,
remained out.
well, yeah, some people said that was, because he was who he was, and people still wanted to keep him down.
I interviewed him on Joey Reynolds, so I mean
Yeah,
he was on, and I
well,
mean
he
I
was.
knew the case because the case all took place at in Passaic Courthouse.
Right.
I knew the Burl Ives Humphreys was the prosecutor at the time, and somebody who I knew very well, and later became a judge. And so I've had an opportunity to speak to all these guys that were involved with that trial, and then I was interviewing him about that. And he believed that he was given an unfair trial, and despite the fact that everything seemed to fit, and he was released. So
So the song is great. It's epic. It's 6 minutes. You can't play it on radio unless you delete one word. But you talk about film, whether it was true to like real life. Was that song true to the real situation that Reuben Hurricane Carter went down with?
it was true to what Reuben Hurricane Carter believed went down. It's not necessarily true to what the victims' families thought, and or the jury that convicted, and or the prosecutor that prosecuted. So
He was a boxer, wasn't he?
yes, he was.
Yeah,
He couldn't beat
was.
Rocky. Couldn't beat Rocky.
Oh, nobody can beat Rocky.
He's not going to beat Rocky.
Well,
By the way,
nobody can
beat him the first time.
listen, there's a poll up on the YouTube channel in the community you can vote on. We've had close to 9,000 votes about the Menendez brothers. What should happen to the Menendez brothers? Set them free, 71%. Lock them up, 29%. Thoughts on those numbers?
It's like 3-1. So
3-1. Now remember, we skew female.
Okay.
The audience skews female, and it's about 80-20 is the skew. So if you're a man, going inside our chat is a great place to interact with amazing women, by the way, just so the men watching understand that. But I spoke last night on my show with one of the jurors from the first trial, and it was hung 6-6. 6 women voted for the MS, which is the man, blah, 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 and 6 men voted for the red rum. So the split wasn't not guilty. It was for the lesser charge, which if they were found guilty of the lesser charge, they'd be free today, based upon the maximum sentences. But it broke down on gender lines. Do you think we're still there, or do you think where we are today, more men are saying, okay, we can let them go? Or do you think we're still there where the women are set them free and the men are lock them up?
I think it probably is still the same way.
That
women
would be
being
my
more
guess.
favorable. But Ben, I want to address the second trial. The second trial, from what I've seen, what I've read, I mean, of course, we didn't see it on court TV. We didn't see it being covered, other than they were giving us, on the news, they were talking about what was happening. Obviously there were people in there watching it and reporting. The second trial did not have 2 juries. It only had the 1 jury. Okay.
One.
In the first trial, there was 2 juries. So, each defendant basically had his own jury on that. The second trial, Lyle could not testify because of what had happened between the first and the second trial, when a book came out that was his confessions to his then girlfriend or paramour or whatever she was, that he was, basically laughing that he was making it up as he went along, and everybody was buying him. And that came out, and then there was a complete turnaround on the sympathy for these individuals. you also had the OJ trial coming in, basically at the same time as the second trial was going forward, which took a lot of interest off the case, and people were now more attuned into what was going on with OJ. I don't think they necessarily had a fair trial, but some of it was their own doing. The fact that Lyle could not testify was because Lyle said he lied on the stand. He basically said he perjured himself on the stand. He was not able to get up there, which was unfair to Eric. I mean, the trial should have been split. At that point, the trial should have been split. They should not have been tried together on that, or they should have had two juries on it. I also think that the SA information was imperative to get into the case. I think it had to be, whether the jury bought it or didn't buy it.
I think it's relevant. I thought it was relevant too. I agree with you there. I think the relevancy, I always want more in front of a jury rather than less. And when you're talking about what motivated the actions, right? It wasn't a who done it. It was what motivated their actions.
And what's interesting is that if this goes through, okay, in California,
it will. It's done.
I say if, because I don't know if the judge is going to agree, but let's say if it does. What's going to happen is everyone should be given that same opportunity. The guys that didn't have the $1 million dream team attorneys, that have a public defender who they excluded stuff about the fact that the guy's mother was a drug addict or that he had been abused, and none of that came in, and they didn't have the money to appeal or do anything along those lines. Okay, every one of them should be given that same opportunity. And that's why I think a judge is going to stand up and say, you know what, this is a floodgate situation.
Yeah, they'll look at it and say, is this like, a couple of, and it comes back to who they are. Are they privileged? Right. Are they privileged?
And Menendez had a full bastion of appeals. Yeah. Now, I, to this day, cannot figure out how something wasn't reversed. I mean, with regards to that second trial, I do not understand how that went through up to the Supreme Court, okay, of California. And that
it did. And
no, how it wasn't reversed. That's what I'm saying. It blows my mind.
That's
Absolutely
why you need the cameras in there, so people could watch that trial and come to their own conclusion, whether or not it was justice or injustice. You can see the first one on courttv.com for free. Hey, Carrie Vance is just laughing up a storm today. No bocce ball. Do you guys play bocce at all?
I do. I haven't in a long time, but I have a bocce ball set that I bought as soon as I moved to the shore, because there's a couple of places along the boardwalk where they have bocce ball courts. And
they built them here in Georgia too. We're right next to the pickleball courts. They got the bocce ball.
That's only fair.
The only thing we don't have are the old Italian men.
Well,
I mean, in 20 years, I could be the old Italian guy doing it, but right now we don't have them.
I took Jonesy to a restaurant in Queens.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And right across the street from this Italian restaurant is a bocce, our bocce courts, where there's nothing but little old Italian men.
Yes.
And in Corona playing bocce.
Oh, it was fabulous. It was fabulous. There was a little Italian American club next door to the restaurant. And, Al's like, avert your eyes when you walk by. And there's an old guy with a cane that's like taller than him, all hunched over. He looked like he was right out of Central Casting, man.
Yeah, the best thing about this club is that they have a guy sitting outside on a, basically a chair, like a, like a backyard chair. Okay, wearing a sweatsuit and has a bulge around the ankle. Okay, and. and when you go walking by, okay, and you like try to look through the window of this gentleman's club, the guy goes, "What are you looking at? You got a problem? What are you looking at? Move on, like that."
Pussycat likes Eric.
I'm sorry.
Pussycat likes Eric.
Hey,
I like Eric.
Pussycat. I like Pussycat.
What's new, Pussycat?
No. But that place has a tremendous, beautiful bocce courts right across the street from the restaurant.
You know what I love?
The Parkside is called, folks.
What I really loved, Parkside, right? What I really loved about it, and it was a fabulous dinner. Thank you, Al. it was just so old school. Like a lot of those places don't exist anymore. I mean, I don't think like if you go by the Ravenite, where John Gotti used to hang out in Manhattan, that it's like anything anymore. And there were places when I was a kid in Bloomfield Avenue, Newark, and above Newark, where my dad would take me to, and there's a bunch of old guys playing cards, and my dad would put the numbers in or the horses. It was that kind of like old school place. It was fantastic, but I digress.
Well, also, and across the street from the bocce court is the Lemon Ice King of Corona.
Oh
And
yes,
there's no better meal, there's no better way to end the meal than go
Right.
over to the Lemon Ice King of Corona and get yourself an incredible Italian ice.
Speaking of Italian, gentlemen, I need to address. Everyone's talking about my sweater, sweatshirt, jacket, whatever they want to call it. And if anyone wants to know the history of this, there it is. Adrian.
oh wow, wow.
What was that
Yeah.
picture?
What movie?
Yeah.
What movie is this from? Like Rocky 3, it looks like, because he has a mansion.
Yeah, it's Rocky 3. Rocky 3. It's my Rocky 3 sweatshirt. What's interesting is you can't
Now
buy.
you got to get a robot.
See, his is the original, which is you see the Adidas logo there.
Yes.
And I've been
Right.
trying for more than a decade to find it. I only found it one place on eBay, and it was like $800. So I did not buy it. But what Sly Stallone now has opened up the Sly Stallone shop. And instead of the
Nice.
Adidas logo, you have the Sly Stallone logo, and you can buy it for a reasonable price. And that's what I did.
Cool.
But I'm telling you, I was looking for this before the internet. I wanted it. I couldn't find it. Then the internet came, and I kept looking for it. I said, somebody's got to be selling it. Somebody has it. Somebody. And then for years, and then finally, Rocky himself started selling it. Sly Stallone.
Because he doesn't have enough money. So that's
Well, here's the thing. He's got a family. He's got kids, his daughters. He loves them. And I think he wants to leave them as much as possible.
ex-wives.
Yeah, and some
His-
ex-wives he has to pay.
His new TV show, Tulsa Kings, is very cool.
It's good. And I think they filmed part of it here in Georgia.
Second season, yeah, because the cast was complaining about being in Oklahoma.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
Well, because you only get $25 for your last meal in Oklahoma. So
All right. Let's see what
It
else we
goes
have.
further, though.
Let's get to some of the comments before we go. We've got Crystal Paul saying, set them free.
why
Set them
don't
free.
you, babe?
If there's any man who wants to set them free, please post now. I'll try to find your post because I see a lot of women wanting to set them free.
Manly, yes.
LAW, I can't even stomach why this is being done. Sorry, justice is justice. Obviously, LAW does not want them set free. Fussy Vance, lock them up. Lock them up. But Tough Love coming right back saying, set the boys free.
Huh?
Set the boys free.
Set me free. Why
Here's
don't
Justice Junkie. Curious, when a defense attorney is appointed, do they really believe in their client's innocence or just doing their job, even if the evidence is clearly guilty? Al for 20 points.
I'd like to buy a vowel. No, understand this. When we defend somebody that is accused of a criminal crime, a criminal action, okay, and we're in court, our move is to make sure that their rights have been protected and that everything has been done properly. Okay, the guilt aspect of it does not necessarily come into play unless you're trying to negotiate a plea, and then you go from there. But it is generally making sure that the T's were crossed, the I's were dotted, and that everything that should have been done was done properly. That's what we do. Okay, whether or not someone is guilty or not guilty, I generally don't even ask that question.
Well, this is interesting. This is interesting because, I have had hundreds and hundreds of criminal defense attorneys on my programs through the years. And I, off the air and sometimes on the air, have been asking them that question. And there's a real split among criminal defense attorneys. Some want to know everything. Tell me everything. If you did it, you did it. You tell me everything. Others, like Al, will say, I don't want to know. And some say, I just want to see what the evidence is. And we'll get that from the prosecutor. And then the prosecutor will give me the evidence. And then I'll I'll make my argument based upon what the evidence tells me or doesn't tell me.
See, that surprises me because my understanding is that as a defense lawyer, if you know that there is guilt, you can't you can't mislead or lie. So there are places you can't go once you have that knowledge, isn't?
Yeah,
Well,
but if I don't know that knowledge, then I can go any place I want to go.
Right.
So,
So that's what I mean. So you
That's
don't
what he
ask,
means.
but
He's
these
saying
people
the
who
people.
do
He's
ask.
surprised the people who do ask. But let me ask you this: if you ask and they say, "Yeah, I did it," can you put that defendant on the stand and question him ethically?
No.
I would have a huge problem with that. A huge problem with that.
You see, folks, we're taking you behind the curtain. This is a place where, you know, a lot of the other podcasts, streamers, and everything else don't necessarily go. And this is a place where sometimes some attorneys who appear on the air don't want to go. But this is true, right? So, Al, if you know that your guy did it, ethically, you can't really put him on the witness stand. So if you don't ask him and you just base your opinion of the case on the evidence that the prosecution has, you have the option of putting
That's
your
correct.
client on the
Yeah,
stand.
because you're sworn ethically not to perpetrate a fraud upon a tribunal. So if I knew the answer to that question and I put him on and he says I didn't do it, I'd have a problem. Now, there are instances where, for instance, like the Menendez brothers, we know they did it. Okay, it was just a question of why.
Why?
Would I put him on the stand at that point? Absolutely, I'd have to put him on the stand.
Right.
Because it's almost a self-defense type claim, and you have to put somebody on with that. But that's a
Right.
whole different thing. If
Right.
I know that the individual did it, and he wants to take the stand and say he didn't do it, or come up with an alibi that's not correct or that's not truthful, I cannot do that. And then I have to get out of the case without letting the judge know why I'm getting out of the case. When what you say is that we've just come to a difference of opinion on how this matter is going to be tried.
Yeah.
And you walk out.
Jonesy, when Al said tribunal, what image came in your mind? Because in my mind, I'm picturing like two men from medieval times with their garb on with trumpets.
Now,
What-
Vinny, we did go to the medieval fair.
Yes,
Okay,
I
and there
know.
was and there was a trial there, if you remember. We had to
Yeah.
do something along those lines, and
Yes.
there wasn't two. There was actually three people at that point, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
The
Hence
two of
the
you
term
went to this?
tribunal. Try three.
The two of you went to
Tribunal.
this?
I'm
Oh, yeah,
sorry?
we went to the what do they call that? The festival,
The Renaissance Fair.
Renaissance Fair. Yes.
I never understood those.
Neither did
People
we.
drinking out of steins, dressed funny. I like
Jonesy,
women's
you would love the
cleavage. I like the
wenches.
cleavage. Huh?
You would love the wenches.
And
the
Albert
cleavage.
Lunch was there, so it worked out very
Albert
well.
Lynch was- Ashley Bouchard, thank you for matchmaking all of your lovely lady fans, Vin. Okay, that's our
Ooh,
job.
Very nice.
Y. O'Rourke, free the Menendez brothers. Oh, look at this. I don't know how to do this. When I'm typing on my thing, how do you get the little thing on top of the E? Do you guys know how to do that?
The umla.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Jonesy, do you?
No.
Like, how do you do? Do you
I'm
need
not-
a special
I'm not sure our
keyboard for
keyboard-
that?
I'm not sure our keyboards support that.
Can anyone do that? I don't know
Yeah,
how to. I
yeah,
would love to know how to
it's
do
kinda-
that. I would put that at the end of my name, even though it doesn't belong there. It just makes it me seem more fancy. I don't know.
Actually, the umla is the little U thing. That's
Yeah,
not
I don't know what that is. That's an accent.
Yes, and accentuate
A
the
little
positive.
accent. James says the brothers got money.
No, they don't.
I
The
don't
money
think they have
went. The
now.
money went to his brother. Okay, I mean the family got the money because he was the next of kin.
Mm. Laura says a strip club. Do you think they'll go to a strip club?
I think that they'll probably try to play it cool, and they shouldn't be going to strip clubs.
Yeah,
History is full of guys who get out and then like get themselves in trouble with drugs or whatever.
Well,
I
if
think
they get out, they'll be on parole, so they got to keep their noses clean.
yeah,
Right.
I think they've been away.
That means no
long,
drinking
long-
and no drugs.
yeah, I think they've been away long enough that they'll play it cool.
And they'll be drug tested, right?
Yes. Yep. And alcohol tested.
Really? So they
Yeah.
can't
Not allowed
even
to
drink.
Can't drink or
Really?
drugs.
How
Interesting.
about Sunday communion?
Well, Sunday communion is a little bit different. They actually probably, but in prison, Sunday communion is grape juice. It's not wine.
Interesting.
Well, can't you turn that
Ashley
into
Bouchard
wine?
back. What about the lawyer who said men can't be essayed? Yeah, that's problematic.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they can and they are. And I don't know
Yeah.
what the percentages are, but especially young men and young boys.
I would think that the percentages are much higher than statistics would show, because I would think that a male would be less likely to report such a thing.
Mm-hmm. Clara Jean Rocky.
Rocky.
Man,
Best
what a
movie-
great, wasn't that
best movie
I mean,
ever.
wasn't that just a great movie? Like
Oh, best
everything
movie ever.
about it. Like
Yeah.
everything about it.
Yeah.
And then Rocky, did you see Rocky 2? I saw Rocky 2 in a movie theater.
Yeah, I saw
So
them all.
I saw the first three in a movie theater.
Yeah, but
Why-
I saw it in a movie theater where half the crowd was Italian and half the crowd was black.
Nice.
Is
African
anybody-
American.
But they were
And-
all rooting for Rocky, right?
No.
Really?
We were like the Italians were cheering for Rocky and the non-Italians were not cheering for
No.
Rocky. And everybody was like loud in the theater.
Yeah.
Like we were cheering.
Absolutely.
It was so exciting and so much fun. And at
Yes.
the end of everything, it wasn't a bad scene. It was like a fun, friendly kind of scene.
Yeah.
It was, I
Because
think
the
I saw it-
Italians. That's because the Italians were making book on the fight.
but
Hey,
But,
I saw
like-
it at the air-conditioned Warner Theater in Harrison, New Jersey, and the crowd was so into it during the final sequences in the fight that I couldn't hear the ending. I didn't know who won. I guess like I was stupid. I was young, because like you look at the visual and you can see who won, but it was just so loud, man. It was like a real boxing match.
I got to tell you though, like the thing about that Rocky movie. All right, now it's Sylvester Stallone wrote the movie and everything along those lines. It was a very interesting tale. They do believe that it was about the Bayonne Bleeder. Okay, so he kind of stole the story of a New Jersey boxer.
Yeah,
Chuck
I dispute
Wepner.
that. And I like Chuck Wepner. I interviewed him, and I know him, as I'm sure you do, Al. But I dispute that. He was inspired. It's not Webner's life story.
because there was a
And-
lawsuit about that, wasn't there?
There was a lawsuit on it. It actually did settle. But what I was going to say is this: that movie is nothing without that song. That
great
Gonna
song.
Fly Now song makes that entire movie for me, because just when you hear that opening sequence, dun 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 dun, dun, dun it just absolutely gets your blood going.
Yes.
Quick footnote.
Great.
Jonesy, do you remember this moment? It was during the trial of who was our guy with the hair? Phil
Spector.
Spector. During Phil Spector's trial, we had all these celebrity guests on, and one of them was the Academy Award winning songwriter.
Yes,
who was
Carol.
what was her name?
Carol something or another.
Right. She was
Carol King?
she was the lyricist for
Yes.
Gonna Fly Now.
Yes, and she also wrote like a surf song back in the 70s. The one about one of the ones about a car,
Right.
the Rondells or something like that. Al.
But
But-
think
but-
about it.
Bill Conti-
She
Bill
won an
Conti
Academy
was-
Award for writing Gonna Fly Now.
Yes,
So Bill Conti was the one who wrote the song, though, right?
The
Isn't that the
music.
one?
yes,
He did the music. She did the lyrics, and she won an Academy Award for it.
yes, and she was rich, and you could tell there was something like she obviously took cucumber baths. Like there was
Flying
something
high now. Gonna
Yes.
fly now.
Yes.
Fly.
Oh, wait a
Fly.
minute. Carol Connors.
Yes,
Carol
Yeah.
Connors. Okay. Yeah.
She was such a great guest.
oh, she was cool.
love
I
this
had
woman.
her on.
She just oozed
well.
Hollywood. She
Yep.
oozed Hollywood. Oh,
Yeah.
it was beautiful. Guys, we're running out of time. Let's just get a few more of these comments in. Sassy Southern Witch, free Joe Exotic. That guy hasn't unalived anyone, as is doing as much, if not more, than harsh criminals. Your thoughts about Joe Exotic? The Tiger King.
The Tiger King should stay in prison, no doubt.
Who is Joe Exotic?
The Tiger,
Tiger King. You didn't see Tiger King during COVID?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
watch it.
Jonesy, you would love it. You need to watch it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it a real story, or what's the deal?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a murder.
But
It's a murder for hire story. It's about
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. Oh, you need to watch it.
It's remarkable.
Tiff Angels, Vinny is so cute.
Oh,
Look at that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Thanks. Gonna fly now.
I don't know. I just randomly hit the comments and they pop up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's remarkable the random comments you pick up on this thing. And never one of them just says, Vinny, get hit by a truck. You never pick that one.
No.
Okay.
Anna.
When it says Al get hit by a truck, that one's Al get hit by a truck.
It is what it is. Anna or Anna, some really believe their clients are innocent, right? I mean,
yes.
What's the percentage you think of innocent people, like factually innocent, did nothing wrong, that are indicted?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot. Okay, because you can indict anything. It's so easy to indict.
Wait. No. I'm not saying like they're indicted for, first degree and they're really guilty of third degree. I'm talking about people who are 1,000% completely innocent, did absolutely nothing wrong, and are indicted. What's the percentage?
It's very simple, because you can manipulate. The prosecutor in a indictment in grand jury has a way to manipulate stuff.
Objection, not answering the question.
That is answering. But let me just say this. I will say this right now, that the hardest thing in the world to do is to represent a innocent person. It is the hardest thing to do. Okay, because when you've got that kind of responsibility on your shoulders,
give me an answer.
It's a disaster.
What's the percentage?
There is a ton of people who get indicted on crap.
A ton? 2,000 people? Is that what it is? 2,000 people?
In New Jersey, there's probably every year at least 1,500 people that get indicted that didn't do anything. And I can tell you, I've been involved in several of those cases.
1,500 out of how many? What's the percentage?
Oh, well, all right. So I'm imagining that crime-wise in New Jersey, there's got to be at least 100,000 cases. So, 1,500.
15%?
Well,
that's a little high, young man. That's a little high.
That's not 15%. That's 1.5%.
Well, 1.5%. Okay. Yeah. So you're not saying 15,000?
No, I'm saying like 1,500.
1,500 out of, okay. So 1.5%. Okay. So I'll just give you some stats. We know that I think the numbers between 92 and 95% of the people who are indicted end up pleading guilty to something. So they're not 100% factually innocent.
That's not necessarily true.
It's not necessarily true. I would agree.
True.
Because you could.
There were a number of people. There were a number of people that will take PTI. He's gonna fly now. There are a number of people.
That was worthy of Mr. Bean.
There is a number of people that will take a program called PTI, which is a pretrial intervention, which enables you to.
Which is not a guilty plea.
No. There is it's called a dirty PTI that requires you to plead guilty to the offense, and then you get into the PTI, and then the offense is basically wiped off your record if you successfully complete the program. But there is a number of people that will do that for a number of reasons, most being the fact that they can't afford the trial.
Look at my fancy name with all the accents.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing today, guys?
Wow.
Very, very nice.
Special keyboard.
Look at this. Carl Lafong, Vinny Politan. Vinny Politan. That's what my friends used to call me back in the old neighborhood.
Back in the old neighborhood.
I don't even know if I should bring this up, but in lieu of what you were saying, that guy on Texas Row, I've only seen the sound bites, so it's kind of wrong for me to judge. But it sure as hell looks like that guy may have been innocent based on what the original investigators and such are saying.
What are we talking about?
Which case?
There's a guy on I don't know if I could say it, on Texas Row. You know, your final walk, the last
Yeah,
mile.
on the D row. On the D row.
Yeah, and they're saying that he had he was off the spectrum. And when they asked him about his child and shaken baby syndrome, they didn't like the way he reacted, but he couldn't show emotion. And he is on the row. Went to the Supreme Court. They denied it. A judge recently, it may have changed since then, gave him a stay. I only know the sound bites from it, but it sure as hell looks like this guy may have been,
That's because shaken baby syndrome at the
We're out of time. We're out of time, guys. I hate cutting you off, but we're up against it. Fussy Vance, piece of steak. Where can folks find you, Al?
I will be on at Legal Weapon 3 on X. Please, you can DM me, and I'll always respond. And I will not be on Monday night with Vinny. I'm usually on every Monday, 8 to 9, because I have a wine charity auction that I need to go to. So I will be at a wine charity.
Oh, sipping some wine. Smilsy Cork. Jonesy, where can folks find the radio legend?
Well, you can. I'm up and down the dial, AM and FM. That's the way I like it, old school. Check out the full schedule at glennjones.net. Glenn is with one N, glennjones.net.
And you can find me on Court TV every night, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, closing arguments. Then 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, Vinny Politan investigates 2 hours of live true crime. The only guy on television doing it, folks.
And usually Monday night, I'm on with Vinny. Okay,
Right.
on closing arguments, 8 to 9. Unfortunately, as I said, it's a charity wine auction I have to go to. I need to replenish my cellar.
Exactly. Say goodbye, Jonesy.
Goodbye, Jonesy.
It's Vinny and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast. Vinny has the blue eyes, Al cracks the jokes. Jonesy stays behind his shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinny and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast. Load up all your comments, hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinny, Al, and Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime. They're telling stories of the days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinny and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast.